Okay, guys, we're at chapter 12 of Lemons, and it's titled Bigfoot Souvenirs and More. An optional assignment you have for this, for Friday, is you can do an illustration of what you think the shop looks like. So I'm going to be reading about how the shop looks, how it's set up, etc. And you guys, if you'd like to, you can do an illustration and share that with me. Mr. Miller's son Jay shows us 4 pictures that are blurry at best, grainy at least, and just plain dark and fuzzy. Tobin tells him that anything is better than nothing, but after seeing these pictures, I think this anything is a real close second to nothing. I guess whatever's in the pictures could be something if you squint your eyes real tight and cock your head to the left. And we know for sure it's not a tree stump or anything like that, because in each picture it's in a different spot and in a different position. But is it a Bigfoot? Tobin makes an executive decision to bring in an expert witness to give the final yay or nay about the images in the grainy shots. So we stop in Charlie's store that afternoon. The store is set on the edge of Highway 299 and made entirely of logs. Even the roof is made of thick, heavy logs. The store has a dark green wooden door with a bell on it, so that whenever someone opens it, the thing jingles to let Charlie know there's a new customer. The bell on the door rings when Tobin and I push it open, which makes Charlie look up from behind the counter where he's sitting on a stool reading a book. Right next to the door is a big bulletin board with newspaper clippings of Bigfoot sightings, some from California and others from other states. There's even an article about a Bigfoot story someone told President Roosevelt in the 1800s. Well, there they are, Charlie calls out, setting his book aside and taking off his glasses. Tobin the Miller's pictures in his hands makes a beeline for Charlie while I explore the shop. It's bigger on the inside than it looks on the outside, and there's a humongous stone fireplace right in the middle of the room with a fat, lumpy pillow scattered across the floor all around. There's a hand-carved sign over the fireplace, and it says, "Take a story, leave a story." In the far corner is a gargantuan wooden Bigfoot, a little like the one at the center of town, except this Bigfoot is holding another carved sign letting customers know that they can get their picture taken with this for $1. The shelves are covered in anything and everything. Bigfoot-related posters, greeting cards, t-shirts, coffee mugs, and even a Bigfoot doormat, which is just one big brown foot. There are other sections too, all clearly labeled with even more carved wooden signs. In the fine cuisine section, there's an aisle labeled exotic jerkies of the world. There is any kind of jerky a person could ever want. If you're a person who eats the stuff, that is, which I'm not, beef, deer, bear, elk, buffalo, ostrich, even kangaroo, disgusting. Next to the jerkies are jars of olives stuffed with things like garlic and nuts and cheese. There are all kinds of fancy crackers with seeds on them, and there's some cookies too. There's a section labeled hunting and fishing, which is where I see a whole basket of safari hats, just like the one Tobin wears. Except these are all plain with no letters on them, and I pick one up. "Hey, Tobin," I call, modeling it for him. "What do you think?" "Nope," he tells me. "I already told you. You're not approved for that level of security clearance. Come on now. We have to show Charlie the pictures." I walk up to the counter and rest my elbows on the glass, and there's a spinning tower of Bigfoot keychains, a box of maps, and a basket of saltwater taffy, each piece individually wrapped in wax paper. 2 for a nickel, it says. What do you think?" Charlie asks after I thoughtfully examine the place. He picks out a pink piece of taffy for me and he hands Tobin a brown one. It is really Bigfoot souvenirs and more," I tell him, unwrapping the taffy and putting it in my mouth. "S'pose so," he smiles at me, and I turn away. "Charlie," Tobin says, putting up his glasses, "when did the photo bat say the film's going to be developed?" "Well, they said about 4 days, so maybe Thursday. You kids have lunch yet?" "Not yet," and just setting his chin in the direction. "This one had a Twinkie for breakfast." "You're such a big fat blabbermouth." We can call it Deeze's Deli, and they can make up some sandwiches. How's that sound, kids?" "Could you look at these first?" Tobin asked Charlie, handing him the envelope of pictures. The bell on the door rings. We all look up and see a family. There's a mom, a dad, and a little girl, probably about 4 years old. "Welcome," Charlie calls out to them, slowly getting up from his stool. "Welcome to Bigfoot Souvenirs and More. We got everything and anything related to the elusive Bigfoot that you'd ever want to take home with you. Please let me know if I can help you find anything." "Oh, thank you very much," the man says, while the girl runs to the section labeled toys, which is filled with baskets of stuffed Bigfoot and other animals from the forest. "Okay," Charlie settles back down on his stool and pulls his glasses out of his shirt. "Let's see what you got here." While Charlie and Tobin lay the 4 pictures out on the counter, I watch the man and the woman and the girl go through the stuffed toys. They smile and they laugh together. I bet somewhere they have a happy house with a happy hallway full of happy family pictures. And I bet one day soon there'll be another one showing their happy trip to Willow Creek. I sigh. We just got back from out by Miller Ranch, Tobin tells Charlie. Mr. Miller and his son Jay got these while they were out hunting. We're wondering what you think about them. Tobin lines up the 4 pictures in perfect order in front of Charlie. They're blurry, Tobin says. And they're grainy, I say. Mm-hmm, Charlie says, leaning over. We all examine them together, and Tobin pulls his magnifying glass from his back pocket to get a closer look. He lets me and Charlie take turns, too. Well, Charlie says, stroking his beard, whatever it is, it's definitely big, isn't it? Bipedal, too, Tobin says. What's that? I ask. Bipedal means it walks on 2 feet. Don't bears do that, too? I ask. Very good, Lem, Charlie says. You're exactly right. But there are some big differences in determining whether it's a bear or a Bigfoot. Like what? Well, Bigfoot has longer hair and it's scraggly, too. It's been mostly reported as reddish-brown, kind of like an orangutan, but sometimes it's reported in other colors. Some black, some dark brown, some even gray, Tobin adds. That's right, Charlie says. And they smell real strong, too, almost like a skunk. They're bipedal creatures all the time, just like humans, whereas bears generally walk on all fours and only sometimes stand up on their hind legs. And Bigfoot has the facial features of a human. Tobin looks at me, his wire-rimmed glasses slipped all the way down. Half human, half primate. And opposable thumbs like us. Charlie wiggles his thumbs, instead of paws like bears. I look through the magnifying glass again, real close this time with my nose almost pressed against the picture. Ever think it could be someone in a suit just trying to mess with you all? No! Tobin blurts out. See, there you go again. There she goes again. He waves his arms up at Charlie. What? I say, confused. What did I say? Always complaining. Always. Tobin begins gathering up the photos. I'm not complaining, I say to Charlie. I'm not. I'm just asking a question. Could it be somebody in a suit? How can it be scientific if you don't consider every possibility? Don't you think I would know the difference? I'm a professional, you know. Read the sign. And he points to his stupid hat. I think anyone could be fooled if the conditions were right and if it was far enough away. Plus, there's a big difference between seeing something in real life and looking at grainy pictures, I say. But this is all you got. Geez, why are you so upset? She's right, Charlie tells Tobin. We got to ask all kinds of questions, not just assume. And yes, Lem, to answer your question, some have doubted the original film that Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin shot out this way, asking the same questions. Could it be fake? Could they or someone else have fooled us with a costume or sort? Do you think they did that? No, Tobin says. It's real, I know it. Charlie knows it too. He's even seen one with his own eyes. Tell her, Charlie. Come on, tell her. They're real. I turn to Charlie. For a minute, I wonder if Mama ever saw Bigfoot. She never talked about it. But I'm finding out a lot of things about Mama here that I never knew. You've actually seen one, Charlie? I ask. Charlie sighs. Long breath and puts his glasses in his shirt. Well, that's right. He leans back on his stool, crossing his arms over his chest. When? Well, it was a night about 5 years ago now. I was driving up on the highway over there. It was dark and foggy, just a bit of drizzling coming down, which means all I could really see was a few feet in front of me, of the car with the headlights that lit up. And I was driving real slow. I mean real slow. And then in a flash of a second, he was there. He was right in front of me. Really? I breathe. Yes, really. Let him tell the story, why don't you? Tobin says. So the first thing I saw was the eye shine, Charlie goes on. Bright red shine gleaming in my headlights. And then he was just standing there. Out in front of the car? That's right, Tobin says. Nothing hullabaloo about that, is there? I turn back to Charlie. Did you hit him? Charlie swallows and shakes his head slowly. No, thank God I stomped my boot on the brake pedal as fast as I could. He stood there and he stared at me through the windshield and I couldn't move. It was almost like he put a spell on me or something. Charlie stares off in the distance. We just sat a moment and we looked at each other, like neither of us knew what to do. Then what happened? I asked. Then he was gone, as fast as he came. Charlie puts his chin in his hand and leans an elbow on the counter. At first I wondered, if there was something else, anything else, because that fog was so thick. Then Charlie looks right into me, but I know it wasn't. I know it was the Bigfoot, a real, live Bigfoot. Wow, I whisper. Were you scared? Charlie doesn't say anything for a real long time, like he's thinking about that question. Funny thing is, I wasn't, he tells me. We looked at each other square in the eye for a split second, and I knew in that moment he was more scared of me than I was of him. How could that be? I asked. He's a beast, a monster. Wrong again, Tobin says, his voice quivering a little. Just because you don't understand them doesn't make them beasts or monsters. I put my hands on my hips and I give him a long, hard glare. What is your problem? I demand. Excuse me, the man calls from the back of the store, standing next to the big wooden statue. Can we get a picture with the beast? Tobin just hits his forehead with his palm and shakes.